for joining us on Enlighten Up. This is episode number 5 called Avatars versus the Higher Self and Spirit Joyrides During a Blackout. Michael asks us some very interesting questions in this episode. He's wondering, who is our higher self? Are we just avatars on this planet controlled by our higher self or some higher spirit? And he brings up some controversial questions about drugs, alcohol, and spirituality. So we're going to get into that a little later on. But first, we go back into a brief discussion about raising our vibrations and how that benefits our life in a very positive way, including the people around us. So let's jump straight into the episode and find out what we had to say. Welcome back to our 5th episode of Enlighten Up. I can't believe we're already 5 weeks in of doing this. It's going by really fast.
It really is.
Yeah, how are things going on the West Coast, you guys? I know Michael's in... Are you in Washington?
Yeah, I'm still in the state of Washington. I sadly quickly acclimated to the time here, and now I'm sleeping until like 11 o'clock here on the East Coast or West Coast, which is like 2 o'clock my time when I get back. So I'm screwed. I go back home.
It's going to take you a while. I'm on the West Coast. I'm in San Diego.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Getting some sun, visiting my son. It's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. I know. I can't wait to be back on Mountain Time in 2 weeks.
I can't wait for you to be back on Mountain Time in 2 weeks.
Well, okay, so today, since to all our listeners out there, if you listened to episode 4, we talked a lot about energy and vibrations and frequency, and we talked about some of the benefits of raising your vibration, and we kind of went more into depth of seeing the unseen and hearing the unheard. Is that even a word? But there are so many other beneficial reasons to raising your vibrations in how it actually impacts your day-to-day living and those around you. And so we thought we'd kick things off in starting with that discussion. So Lisa, did you want to kick anything off with that? Just throw the ball your way.
On vibration again?
Yeah,
I think you guys should just like review quickly again. I mean, I know it, but like as I say, 3-4 months ago when I first met you guys, I didn't know it. But what do you mean exactly by vibrations?
Basically, I think the easiest way to say it is just, it's almost like just happiness. Also, the more joy that you feel and the happier you feel, the lighter you feel. And that's obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but your vibration is being raised. Like you were saying last week, Michael, about doing the breathing exercise, that when you've noticed since you've been doing it, that you feel, did you say like kind of lighter and happier?
I don't know what I said. I can't remember. But it wasn't happier. It was more like, I would say, more relaxed. But that should go hand in hand with breathing deep for a while. That's why we do it. But you both are saying that's one way to raise your vibrations. But like what I was talking about is like literally what's going on within your mechanics of your body when you talk about vibrations.
Yeah. So so all of your molecules are vibrating at a certain frequency. They move according to where you are, usually emotionally. And so if you're more in a lower frequency, your molecules are moving slower, and lower frequencies are emotions that resonate with some of the less savory emotions like judgment and fear, anger, hatred, guilt, things like that. And when you are more in alignment with happier emotions, such as abundance, joy, gratitude, things like that, then your molecules are actually moving faster. And when your molecules are moving faster, you're going to attract things that are vibrating at that frequency as well. So like attracts like. So that was kind of where we talked about on like the physical level, on the cellular level of how energy and frequency work. And so when you raise your vibrations, what you're doing is you're speeding up the movement of your own molecules within your body, and which in turn is raising how you feel emotionally. You're in a happier state. So I think that's where Lisa was going with that in the beginning. But, touching on the breath, Michael, relaxation is a higher frequency. So when you're more relaxed, you're not in that anxious state. Anxiety, panic, that's a lower frequency. So you are raising your vibration when you're doing the breath work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think like to touch on how this can actually impact your life in your day-to-day living, your relationships with your family, your friends, loved ones, business partners, co-workers, things like that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that's pretty important, especially right now, because there's so much chaos going on in the world around us if you choose to partake in it. And you don't really have to look too far to see that it's there. So, Michael, why don't you touch on that? Because you, on the last episode, talked about how you stopped watching the news and how that brought you more, like your life just became better.
I do believe, and I believe this before even meeting both of you guys, that there is some just really crap out there that really tries to do a good job of bringing us down. I experience it a lot because I travel internationally, and our American media is horrendous. But international media piggybacks on our American media, and so us Americans look like assholes out there to like most other countries because of our media. I mean, this is just one of the reasons why I can't stand the whole media and watching the news, because it brings out what looks like the worst of us and showcases it, on every minute. It's not like there's a whole news channel dedicated to good news and great things out there. So I stopped watching news about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's completely changed my mind when it comes to my daily activities. And I've become very less judgmental on people who don't agree with every viewpoint that I have. Much less judgmental, because I don't think you get stoked up by like the way the media and other things do. Yeah. And if judgment is one of the bigger ways of dropping frequency, by just dropping that whole news cycle from my life, really helped, I would imagine, raise my vibrations without me even realizing what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah. Totally. I mean, for me, I've never really watched the news, but I do check in with alternative stuff. And for some reason, the last couple of weeks, there's just been so much going on. And I've been watching more stuff through like more YouTube's channels. But I've noticed that it's on my mind more. And I actually had to make a decision today just to stop watching it altogether. Even though there's some really great information in there, I realized that I don't really need to know it right now. And it was starting to, like, I would go to sleep thinking about it and I would wake up thinking about it. And I thought, my God, I do not want to be thinking about this stuff right before I go to sleep. Because then I actually was dreaming about this stuff as well. And so, wow. that, and I can feel it lowering my vibrations because I'm not as at ease throughout the day that like I normally am. And I'm not as focused on other things that I want to be focused on. But it can pull you in really easy. Like, you get in, it can, I think, stoke the fires of people when they go to talk about those issues with other people. If you are so connected to the media on such a regular basis, because that energy is constantly with you.
It may not be just media either. It might be completely negative relationships you have in your life.
Media is just one thing. Media is just one thing.
Yeah, media is just an easy one to go after, but And then you, Nicole, personally have stopped watching even certain TV shows and movies.
Yeah, that's actually been a really interesting thing for me to observe because and I know Game of Thrones is coming on soon, and that's like my favorite show. But
yeah, you're gonna drop a few vibrational.
I know I'm a little.
Watch that show.
Well, they do have dragons in there, and to me, dragons are like the highest vibrational.
Dragons re-raise it.
Khaleesi and dragons. She's like.
But if the show, theoretically, if the show is so entertaining and good that it kind of makes you happy and satisfied afterwards. No, where is the harm in that? But you have more of a hypothesis than that.
Well, okay, so here's how it is. I've stopped watching cop shows. I've stopped watching like any of those CSI kind of shows, and stuff that just is kind of mind numbing as well. Because what happens is when your heart rate goes up, you're in a state of anxiety, and I'm not everyone's triggered the same way, but I'm triggered a lot. Like, I mean, I get scared really easily, and you'll remember that from that stupid haunted house we went into. But like when I was a kid, I couldn't even watch Scooby-Doo. Like, I got scared when they went to the graveyard. Wow. Like, that stuff scared me, and so I'm sensitive to it, and I know it, and I think it's just because I'm so sensitive to energy. So I've had to stop watching. Like, okay, I loved watching that show. What's it with the billionaires?
Billionaires, yeah.
Yeah, I loved watching that show, but this season there was so much graphic drug use and sex use and like just corruption, and I found it actually affecting me, that I was having a hard time watching it, even though I can appreciate the story. The actual content and the way the people were treating each other was really starting to affect me, and that was new for me to really observe how that was affecting me energetically. So I can't watch that show anymore, even though it's
not about raising your heart rate, is it? I mean, because there's a lot of great things in life that raise your heartbeats, and that, for example, even just simply as exercising, which raises your heart rate. It's the anxiety, and you feel more euphoric afterwards.
But it's the anxiety of the heart rate.
Okay, so it's.
Yeah.
I haven't watched those TV shows in like years. I've tried, like Billionaires. I think I tried, and I watched a few episodes, but. I don't know, there's just so much negativity and just the way that the people communicate with each other. It's so ego-based that I have a hard time.
Yeah.
I just can't get into it because I don't want to think like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to. They're always projecting their stuff onto each other, and, there's so much blame. Even if it's not violent or whatever, it's just the communication. It's not one of understanding oneness and non-judgment and things like that, and I don't like to be around it. I don't want to hear it.
Well, it's about creating conflict and putting other people down. So I get why people want to watch the shows, and I was watching all the shows. It's just now that I've been kind of getting to a happier place in my life on a very consistent basis, I'm observing how that takes away from it. So I don't want to watch those shows now because I don't want to feel those lows unnecessarily just because I'm watching some stupid show that doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather find a different form of entertainment.
And you find like, raising your vibration is just, it's being in the flow. It's not having negative thoughts. It's not having judgmental thoughts. It's everything. You feel lighter, and it's like you're in your vortex, like you can manifest things easier. Things just sort of happen to, like, things that you put out there, like manifesting stuff. It's easier to make that happen when you're not bogged down with negative energies.
Well, it's easier to make it happen in the way that you want it to happen. If you're not in that good mind frame, then you're going to manifest a lot of shit, and it's going to come in really fast because those energies are intense. And so that is another factor as well.
And I know a lot of people right now are really into the law of attraction. And I know The Secret kind of was, a big boom got people interested in that. But I see, I hear a lot about people talking about the law of attraction and, obviously wanting to use it to their benefit to, create a better life for themselves, whether it be a, new home or car or more income or, whatever it may be. But you have to look at the other simple things in your life first before any of that's going to work, like cutting out news and TV and eating better and, being out in nature more and just really trying to raise your vibrations that way if you want the law of attraction to work for you at all. That's my opinion.
Yeah. We know you touched on something, Michael, with relationships as well, being something that you can notice with either bringing your vibrations down or bringing your vibrations up. I know that when I'm hanging out with either of you two, I feel awesome and I'm happy and we laugh a lot and we have a great time. And you're like two of my favorite people that I love spending time with. But then, we all have people that we've spent time with and we're like, oh, I don't feel so good when I'm around you. Yeah. And so you'll notice this is actually something that happens along the spiritual journey, is that you realize that some of your friends don't really remain your friends anymore. And it's not a bad thing. It's not because it doesn't mean you're better than them or they're, it doesn't mean anything like that. But, now you're just, you're vibrating at different frequencies and it's actually repelling you apart. It's on an energetic level. You're not recognizing them anymore and they're not recognizing you. And so it kind of creates this little bit of conflict in between the two people, if we're just going to talk about a two-person relationship. So that's actually another interesting thing to observe when you start raising your vibrations. But you also start to attract more like-minded people in. Like, for instance, just this year alone in Denver, I can't believe the amount of new people I met there are so like-minded. I've never experienced meeting so many like-minded people and being able to talk about this stuff like it's normal, because most people look at you like you're a crackerjack. But this year,
crackpot.
Crackpot.
Yeah. And so this year, though, it's been so different. And I realized that, it's, you just start attracting who you need to attract to in your life when you kind of give into it and you go with it and you keep going up in your frequency.
And it's amazing how quickly it happens. I mean, it's blown my mind. Like, since I've decided to make that my number one focus and just get rid of anything negative in my life that wasn't feeling right, like, it just more and more positive and happy experiences just keep coming my way. I mean, just from the people that I'm meeting to the places that I'm going, like, I just feel like I never even run into crabby people anymore. Like, it never happens because I'm not in that space. And it's awesome. That's how it benefits you. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? How does raising your vibration benefit you? It makes for an easier, happier life just in general, because you're attracting, like is attracting like, and you're attracting.
So is it more of a mind control thing in your guys' opinion?
Mind control?
Mind control?
Meaning, like, you're literally doing things to affect the way your mind thinks. For example, they say the first thing you should do is meditate to help your vibrations, or breathe, or things like that. So is it like more like you're trying to relax your state of mind, or is there literally like things you can do on a daily basis that will keep you going in the right direction when it comes to your vibrations?
Oh, there's definitely things you can do.
I think focusing on you is the most important thing, is like being selfish to the point that your happiness and your joy is the most important thing to you. Like, that's what's going to raise your vibration, and not getting involved with things that are below that, and not letting your mind go there, or, watch the TV shows or hear the conversations, or, and spend time with people that don't make you feel good. When you just make that choice that the most important thing for me is to feel good and do things and be around people that make me feel good, you're just going to bring more and more and more of that into your life. But we feel like we have to subject ourselves to things, or maybe we don't think it impacts us that much. Maybe, people don't think that watching a television show like Billionaires, or, just some of the stupid stuff that's out there that isn't on a high vibration, maybe they think that that's not really going to affect them. But if you listen to your thoughts, like Nicole was talking about, like before you go to bed, you're like, what are you thinking about? And you realize that you're thinking negative things, or your mind is on stuff that isn't joyful. That's a signal. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the most important thing, is pay attention to yourself. Like we need to, take those eyes that we're looking out at the world, at everything, and thinking it's affecting us, and start with yourself, like how you feel when you're doing certain things, and start changing those things, and you'll see your outer world changes. When you change it on the inside, you see it on the outside.
Yeah. So there's
That's the effect.
There's three, okay, so we're mind, body, spirit, right? So there are three different ways, or three categories, I guess you could say, of how you can positively focus on raising your vibrations. And some of the stuff is just natural to some people, like, so for instance, eating a healthy diet, cutting a lot of the sugars out. If it's something that you decide to down the road and you want to cut meats and things like that out, you can. Also, I know like coffee lowers my vibration. I still love it, so I still drink it every now and then, but I try to limit it in certain ways now. Because I'm starting to feel the effects of it. So diet. So there's things with your diet that you can do to raise your frequency. And we have to understand that we are a physical vessel here on Earth, so that you can't have a spiritual journey or without paying attention to your physical body as well, because it's your vessel. And then you go into the mind. And so meditation is one thing that helps. But, some people really struggle with meditation. They just don't know how to do it. And it's just not their thing. And that's okay. Meditation, in the sense that we all think it is, where we're just sitting cross-legged in a corner with the lights off and our eyes closed, that's one way. But there are other meditative states that you can achieve through other activities, like walking through nature, being outside more. So when you're in nature, there's a lot of negative ions that are released in the air through the trees. If you're on the beach with the water, things like that will help raise your vibration. So getting outside more is really good for you. And it's more peaceful. It's the breathing exercise that helps relax you. It slows your brain wavelengths down. So, that's another way to help with your mental capacity of raising into a more positive mind frame. And paying attention to, like Lisa said, to your thoughts. And then on a spiritual level, how are you treating yourself? How do you speak to yourself in your mind? How do you speak to others? How do you, treat yourself on a daily basis? Are you taking your energy? Are you someone who runs yourself into the ground and not really give anything back to yourself? Things like that you want to be aware of. And so there's like those three different categories. So for instance, gossiping, that's one thing that I'm trying to be more conscious of not really partaking in. Sometimes we get slipped into it, but gossiping is another form of really low vibration stuff. So, just kind of really, you just have to be aware. And the more you're aware, the more you see what's really going on within you and outside of you. But Lisa made a really good point. You start with yourself. And I think that is a really good segue into the next thing, which is, there's so much going on right now, and there's so much change happening, or people wanting change, and there are opposing viewpoints of what that change should be. And people think that in order for the change to happen, they have to change the other people to think their way, and vice versa. And when you start to raise your vibration, what you start to realize is that you don't have to change anyone but yourself. You're only responsible for yourself. But through raising your own vibration, your energy field is expanding, and everything's moving faster, and you're creating more light. So when I say creating more light, like energy moves really fast, it's a form of like light waves, right? So people that are around you, people who know you, start to tune into that. And whether they know what it is or not, they're reacting to you differently. And because your energetic field is so strong, people who start to come into it are going to be affected in a very positive way. And it's not that you're trying to affect those people, it's just from you positively changing yourself from within. You're assisting others to positively change themselves if they notice it. And I've been seeing that with people I know happen, and it's really incredible to watch. And it really, I think, drives home that that whole statement of, if you want to change the world, change yourself. And there's so many people that are focused on changing other people and not looking within.
Yeah, you just, I find the same thing has been happening to me this year, just the people that are around me who suddenly just want to raise their own vibration, but they're not talking about it like that. Like even people who aren't like spiritual, and I'm not having conversations about this kind of stuff with them, but just spending time with them, they just start. I've watched it happen at my real estate firm, just with a couple of the guys there who just all of a sudden just seem to want to suddenly figure out more about their own spirituality or improve their relationships that they're having, or they just start looking at stuff differently. And it's not because of anything that I'm saying. It's just simply by being around me and feeling that energy. It's like they want more of it. They want to start feeling it more.
Without even realizing that that's what they're picking up on. Yeah.
They're picking up on it, and you don't have to say anything. Like, Nicole was saying, if you want to, it's such a cliche, saying, it's just, you want to change the world, change yourself or whatever, but it's true. You just focus on yourself and be the best that you can be, and that will affect the people around you. You don't have to try to fix anybody on the outside, because they're all just a mirror image of you anyway. And we've talked about that a little bit, about oneness, and there really isn't anything outside of you anyway, so that's why it works.
What are your thoughts on it, Michael?
Why it works.
I'm just confused with Lisa. There's nothing else outside of you. Now I'm wondering, do you guys exist? Nicole, Lisa, do you exist? Or am I just my world that I made up?
It's like when you go to bed at night and you dream. Where did that dream come from?
I've wondered that many times in my life.
Well, obviously it comes from your own mind. You're creating these pictures, right? I'm actually quite fascinated with I was telling Nicole my own dreams, because there's plot twists and everything in my dreams. How did my brain keep my brain from knowing the end conclusion? But had it all scripted out before. I'm not sure how it all works, but
literally, I've woken up to my dreams laughing because of a joke I was telling myself, that I didn't know the punchline to. Apparently.
I know. I'm actually amazed.
It's the weirdest thing.
I've had some dreams recently where I'm speaking another language, like French or Russian or something, and I wake up and I'm like, "Wow, I didn't realize I was fluent in French," but I was speaking French in my dreams, so.
Maybe one of your past lives there, girl.
I don't know, maybe, but I've had that happen a few times where I'm like, wow, I must know a lot more than I think I know. It's in there somewhere.
Oh, that's so funny. That happened to me when I was 16. I was living in Switzerland for 3 months as an exchange student, and the family that I was staying with, they took me to Germany for this family reunion, 25th family reunion party at some massive farmhouse out in the German countryside. And so that night I went to sleep and I dreamt in French. And although I studied French, I really didn't know French very well at all. I suck at languages. And so when I woke up, I was like, wow, I dreamt in French. And so I went downstairs and someone said something to me in German and I responded in English correctly. And then I looked at them and they looked at me and I thought, how the heck did I just know what to say? It's funny how sometimes that can just click in and you don't even know what's going on, which just kind of speaks to there's things out there we really, that's like the higher self.
Yeah. And you can, I forget his name. There's a gentleman who teaches like how to do that. It's like getting into a meditative state and channeling that part of you. This guy started doing this like in his late 70s. I wish I'll have to get his name and we can put it on the podcast when I figure it out. But you can like tap into your channel, your inner golf professional or your engineer or your artist or like whatever it is. And this guy, like, he does that, and then he's basically an expert at everything. Like, he just, at anything that he wants to do, he just locks in and channels his higher self to that part of him or some other consciousness that knows that well, and it just comes through him, and he can do anything.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Michael, I know you're very confused about the higher self. You don't even think you have a higher self.
Well, no. Okay. This is a great segue into a future topic.
No, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now. We have time.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it's a big thing. Okay, so higher self. From what I understood from listening to you guys, I'm walking around this earth like a video game, and some guy, apparently my higher self, is like playing a video game with Mike as the star. And this reality video game we got going on. That's kind of like what I've been gathered when thinking about the higher self. Now, do I have a higher self? Apparently I do, because he bugs the shit out of Tiffany. And so I feel bad for her. Apparently I have another part of myself that is bugging her.
That's so true. Lisa, from the minute like I introduced Michael to Tiffany, his higher self had been having conversations with her daily.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you're even a chatterbox up in the higher realms.
Yeah, like my own self is annoying, just like me.
That's funny.
No, well, I don't think it's necessarily like you're an avatar.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily completely like an avatar. I think there's some parallel there, but you'd have free will. And your higher self is like your guide. It's your all-knowing guide. And if you want to connect, like you're always connected. So if you want to pay attention to that connection and strengthen that connection, then you can, and you can get way stronger guidance and knowing on, whatever it is in your life that you need guidance on, decision making. But you also have that free will choice to do whatever you want, to go against. You can choose to go against it. You can choose to not pay attention to it. So it is and it isn't like that. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just this is such a huge topic. It could be quite confusing. Like, okay, so the difference between a higher self and a soul, in your guys' opinion, would be what?
It's another aspect of the soul.
Okay. Lisa, what do you think?
Well, I think it's more like it is your soul self. It's your higher self is your soul self. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have the ego. There is no ego. It's just your true self that knows all your past lives and everything that who you truly really are, not just the person you are here in this 3D realm.
Okay.
So you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, we're here to remember who we are." What that means is dropping all the beliefs of what you believe you are right now and remembering all that you are in all past lives from the beginning of time, that your soul was created.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
So it's pretty much similar to
French in that previous life.
Maybe. Okay. I don't think I have any more questions. I mean, that I was just my biggest curiosity was the difference between a higher self and a soul. It sounds pretty much very tangible, whereas like the same but not the same, which can be very confusing.
Well, you have I think you were asking me this when you were in Denver last. Is it like, do you hear your higher self talking to you? And I think we talked about this where sometimes you just feel nudged to do something, or you think you're going to do something, but you just feel like it's not right. Like you shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
You get those kind of intuitive hits, like that's your higher self trying to be like, yo,
So we
don't do
always
that.
just call that your gut instinct. You're saying to your higher self.
Yeah.
Or your gut feeling.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're more connected to your higher self when you're paying attention to like the gut feelings that you have. Yeah. I would say that's correct. Lisa?
Yeah, I totally agree that's, your higher self trying to help and guide you. Or it could be angels and other guidance that you're receiving as well. But for the most part, you're tuning into that. And back to the vibrational thing, I think that's that is the benefit of raising your vibration, is that you're able to get on that frequency with your higher self on a more regular basis. Mm-hmm. So it's just like tuning, they, describe it a lot as like tuning into a certain radio station, with your dial or whatever. You want to listen to rock music, okay, that's 97.3. Well, if you want to listen to classical, that's 91.1. You got to get yourself on the right frequency to hear the right thing. So if your goal in life is to feel joy and have things go smoothly and have intuition is a fantastic thing. That's kind of what you guys were talking about, that gut feeling, because that your intuition's going to guide you to do the right thing, or the easiest thing, or the thing that works out the best, or whatever. But you have to, you can't be bogged down by negative energies and be on a different frequency than your higher self's at. So you got to, that's the benefit of getting your vibration up.
Yeah. So if you're tuned into another channel, if you're tuned into another radio station, you can't hear your higher self, right? So you're tuned into like fear station. Well, you're never going to hear like higher self station or loving Michael station.
And that's why watching just like those regular TV shows that maybe they're not even violent, but like soap operas and things like that, because you're training your mind to listen to and understand and be at a lower vibration. It's like you've got to clear all that stuff out of there and just let yourself tune into that higher frequency.
Do you think like 100 some plus years ago it was easier to be in a higher vibrational frequency than it is now?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't television, first of all. We're in nature more, Yeah. Spent more time together, families. I don't know. I would think so. What do you think, Nicole?
Yes and no. Yes, for all the reasons that you said, but no, because, and this is going to take things in a completely different direction, but the light that is the energy that's coming towards the planet right now is unprecedented. So that's why you're having a lot more people waking up and starting to tune in, because there's so much light, and light carries information. So people call them codes, DNA codes. And when you're out in the sunlight, you're allowing your body to, because your body is made up of energy, it's made up of light, it activates stuff. And so you're downloading those codes. And I know that's a little bit kind of far out there, but those energies were not here 100 years ago. And so it's kind of like a paradox. So we have all this shit that we're like bombarded with, but at the same time we have all this amazing energy coming in at the same time. So it's a hard call.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah,
it makes total sense. Maybe it's not easier just because of that, but we have choices. Everybody has choices. We don't have to subject ourselves to all the negative stuff, but we just have to be conscious and pay attention and live consciously, not just, on autopilot, like everything's just sort of happening. You've got to stop and take control and go inside yourself and
Yeah, and I think, as the more consciously aware you are, the more you're kind of in tune with yourself, which is, raising your frequencies. So like Michael, for instance, you're more aware of certain things now. You're asking more questions. It's because you're starting to tune into things differently. So I think that's just like a natural progression of people. It's not like you have to go out and physically just constantly do things to make sure your frequency's up, but there has to be a conscious awareness of it. At the same time, there's also going to be that natural organic part that just happens.
Lisa, did you know about your higher self a long, long time ago? Like, you had such spiritual like awakenings when you were young. Did you also find your higher self when you were young?
No.
Or was that more of a recent thing?
No, that's more recent to me, like that terminology and everything, and really understanding that higher self part. I never really was exposed to that or thought much about it.
Okay.
Until recently. I'm just trying to think like how I did not know that. But
it's like once you know, you're like, how didn't I know that?
I'm like, how did I not know that? I knew about my soul, and I knew that, but I didn't put a whole lot of thought into, just like past lives and how that affects me in this life, and how I, really having a relationship or a conversation with my higher self, like more like I do now. To me, it was more about, talking and having a conversation with God or, Jesus or someone who like
so
that.
What kind of conversations do you guys have with your higher self? And what are the conversations like? Is it like really a conversation, or is it like, oh, my gut instinct / higher self is telling me to go left instead of right?
No, there's a conversation.
Yeah, I have a conversation of just, asking for guidance and ask, like really consciously living, like not just going from one thing to the next, but really like what is best for me, and thinking about what it is I want to do, or if I'm making plans to go somewhere, I ask, is this the best decision for me? So I have like those types
okay,
of
so so those are more yes and no, or gut feeling one way or the other. I mean, when I say conversation, I'm talking about like the way we're having a conversation right now.
Yeah, no, I do.
Thoughts.
Like, for instance, if I'm having an issue with, say, someone in my life, okay, there's a relationship that maybe there's some sort of discord in, I will have a conversation with my higher self and ask for insight to come in, maybe show me things that maybe I'm not willing to see. Is there anything that I'm missing? Is there a way that I can make this better? And I ask for the assistance to come in. A lot of times it's more in my meditation, but sometimes it's just when I'm reflecting, or, in nature, or just, booting around the house. And I'll literally have that conversation, because you want to always be aware of your side of the street. And so to clean up your side of the street, I find it's best to connect with the higher self, and, if you can, tune into your angels and guides, and then ask for them for help. I think one of the things that I know we touched on free will, but, to really make it clear, they can't interfere and just give you things without you asking. So you have to ask for the help. So if you want assistance, you literally have to say, for instance, you want to call upon Archangel Michael. You say, Archangel Michael, I always invite them to join me in my meditation, and I ask for guidance or assistance on a certain matter. And I'll ask a question, and I'll just ask to be shown if there's anything that I need to see or know that might be helpful in my own growth. So like there's literally a conversation. And then you'll hear responses, or you'll be shown things, and you'll ask more. So it kind of continues.
Does my higher self bug your higher self at all too?
Oh no, Michael, you just bug me overall.
All right, good.
No, I think your higher self gives me a break.
And that, a couple podcasts ago, you had spoken about prayer, Michael, and like, saying that didn't work and whatever. And in my mind, like what Nicole is doing and having conversations with your higher self, that is praying to me. To me, praying is just having a conversation, like asking for guidance, not saying, I want this to happen. Like, I want $1 million to show up in my bank account. Please, please, please let that happen. Or, please let this happen. Or please, it's not trying to control anything. It's just saying, hey, the ultimate goal is for me to feel joy and for, me to understand what's going on and how can this better serve me or help me grow. Like, it's just
Which
those
goes back full circle to your guys' discernment.
Yeah.
Learning discernment.
Yeah. So
it's all connected.
And I would agree. I would agree with you, Lisa. I think you did a really good job of explaining prayer, and I really do believe it's conversation. I know that when we talked about prayer, it's about, like, I talked about sending love, and it's in that sense of, like, if someone's not well and you're praying for them, you just send them love and that it assists them in the highest good for whatever their soul needs. And if that means that they're to pass on, then that means they're to pass on. But yeah, I think that's
because people get upset, like they think their prayers haven't been answered. Mm-hmm. But it's exactly like you said. Well, maybe it was time for the soul to pass on. Like maybe the child is sick and you pray for the child to get better, and the child doesn't get better, and the child ends up passing on. Like, we just don't know what the plan is or what their soul's plan was. So, we're trying to control things, and then we think, oh, prayer doesn't work. Well, you're not praying for the right thing. You're not understanding that it's not all about you and what you want to happen in this life. Maybe that was what that soul needed to happen. And as long as you're sending love and asking for the best possible outcome for everyone and everything involved, then you got to trust in that. You have to believe that is what was meant to be. And that's hard.
What I wanted to ask you, Michael, is if you had any more interesting conversations with your grandmother while you're on the West Coast.
No. I just visit my grandmother quick. She lives about 3 hours away.
Oh, I see.
She seems pretty cool. I mean, I love her dreams and everything. I'd love to have her on the phone.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's lucid enough. She can barely work a flip phone right now. So I'm not sure if that would be in the future grand scheme of things.
She just talks to the people who've passed on. That's all.
Yeah. She's got a better phone that way, yeah. Do you guys think you can raise your vibrations through certain types of drugs?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Oh man, okay, that's an interesting question. You can definitely alter your experience and perception of things. Open yourself up to more. Because I think one of the things that gets in the way of us connecting is our ego. So we self-doubt ourselves, we judge everything. And when you're on drugs, I think that kind of does away with that stuff, in a way. But I'm not really one who advocates it. I'm not for it because it's outside of my control. It's not induced by me. So it's not something I would choose to do, but I'm not saying either that it's the wrong thing to do. It may be the thing that just actually sparks something in someone and opens someone up. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to say because I really the hardest thing I've really done is mushrooms, and so and that just made me laugh a lot and see the stars coming at me. But Other than that, like, I don't know. I don't know,
I
Lisa?
think things like marijuana and alcohol, I think overall they're not necessarily good for your vibration, especially if you're using them as a means to, self-medicate to relax. Like if you feel like you need it to relax or you need it to get into that space, then I don't think that that's a good thing. But I find when I use those things, I tend to just relax more, just automatically. You're having a couple drinks or smoking or something does help you to relax. And then I feel like sometimes I am able to connect better. Like I think about things that maybe I wouldn't have put two and two together without being at that level. So
yeah, the reason why I was asking is because I read a whole article. I mean, I think I heard this from a different source too, so I don't want to be spreading no fake news, but some of like the top leaders in companies, like CEOs and stuff like that, take just a tiny dosage of mescaline and LSD, just a tiny dosage on like a daily basis. The claim is that it keeps them more enlightened with reality and what's going on, and visionary and seeing things that are completely out of the box, but in a good positive direction. So it just made me think, wonder if you can do that, or if that's a possibility when it comes to like the literal vibrations within your body. Because just like you guys said, if you're raising your vibrations because you feel more relaxed and feel happier, well, a lot, like what Lisa just said, a lot of people have a drink or two to feel more relaxed, to feel happier.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the goal would be that we can get, when you're in a complete joyful state, you feel like you're on drugs and alcohol, because you're just so happy and you don't need them. So I think the more you naturally raise your own vibration, that you'll find that you don't need alcohol, you don't need drugs to get you into that state that you're noticing, like, oh, I don't even want to drink anymore. Like I have a great time and I'm happy and free and feeling, like I can just be 100% myself without the use of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a CEO, so I can't pretend to be one or understand what that lifestyle is like. But it
was like the billionaires, like watching the show.
Well,
I mean, it's like that's the way I'm thinking. But also, but to counteract that, I also found another article that was like saying, okay, obviously, if you have too much alcohol, too much drugs, your body's super toxic, and your soul or inner self is like trying to get away from it, but it's still tethered to it. It's just some very interesting stuff out there when it comes to the theories.
You sent that one to me.
It was kind of interesting to come to the different theories, and that's what's fun about the internet, and also not fun about the internet, is there's almost too many theories to counteract the other theories. So I was kind of interested in hearing your guys' take on it.
Okay, well, tell Lisa like what the whole article was about.
Well, the whole article is about like when you black out because you're having way too much, intoxication, that it's not you blacking out. It's like your inner soul self or higher self, or it is like the environment is way too toxic, meaning your body. And so it completely like jumps ship, but it's still tethered like with a line to your body, but it just jumps ship until your body can go back to less toxicity. Well, because you have like an empty vessel wandering around mindlessly, drinking and having fun, apparently this is where it's kind of interesting with the theology of alcohol. Apparently dark spirits take over your body. Bad things happen when you black out. That's why you do stupid things when you black out, according to Nizar. Because it's like someone's taking your body for a joyride, and they're not the best driver in the world.
Nope.
Interesting.
And it was very interesting because they were saying this is where the word spirits came from to describe alcohol, meaning like it's putting in a bad spirit if you keep doing it. And so it's just a very interesting article. And for some reason, it made complete sense to me.
Yeah, and they also, and I've heard this before, and they mentioned this in the article.
Because it's a great... Probably because it's a great excuse for whatever I did when I blacked out.
Yeah, all of us, I'm sure. So it also mentions in the article that these darker spirits hover outside of the doors of bars and nightclubs, waiting for people to stumble out in their drunken stupor so they can basically take a body for a joyride and do really nasty things that someone wouldn't naturally want to necessarily do if they were sober. And I've heard of that several times. So I would think there's some sort of truth lying within there somewhere, definitely. And it would make sense as to why we have that blackout if we've had too much to drink or too much consuming of drugs, where you wake up the next day and you don't know what happened. And then you find out you've done all these horrible things that you just completely are appalled at. And it kind of makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
And I guess
I could just
to the normal
I feel
person
so much
who
better
doesn't
now.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, that wasn't really me. Thank you.
Yeah. It wasn't you that ran over those 3 puppy dogs last week.
It's like
no,
that
don't worry about it.
Shaggy
They see your
song.
house.
It wasn't me. I think, okay, so for like the average person who really doesn't know any much about this stuff, listening to this, it's going to sound really out there because you think, oh, what are they talking about? Other souls taking over another soul's body. But, it happens. So.
The body snatcher episode
Sounds like a
is
future.
getting
I'll say it
closer.
sounds like a future topic.
Getting closer and closer every
Closer
day. You
and
guys said that was
closer.
going to
Well, if you truly believe, I mean, it should make sense in a way. If one truly believes they have a spiritual soul within their body.
Yeah.
So with that, if you believe that, then the idea of a negative spirit trying to force their way into your body makes complete sense too. And I need to start saving these articles so we can link them to these things in Facebook or on our website. But I also read another article that was just going right along with the lines of your body having a spirit. Your body is trying its best to be the best spirit, but if you're leading a very negative life, if you're going down a dark hole, then that negative spirit will attach itself to your body, which makes complete sense because that's kind of like what depression feels like. You don't feel like it yourself. You feel like it's somebody else. Somebody else is running your body, and your own self almost doesn't even care anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of explains schizophrenia as well. Because that's a very real thing, and the multiple personality disorder that comes in is kind of due to, well, it's that whole walk-in thing that we haven't talked about, but like where another soul inhabits the body with another, so 2 souls cohabitate a body together, and that explains schizophrenia in some ways. So there's a lot of weird stuff. But
yeah, that's interesting what you said about depression, because you made me think. I went through a period of years that I was in a depression. I almost call it like a nervous breakdown. But I felt like what happened to me is it was like something. It was like there was a cloud over me, and I used to describe it as that. And sometimes it would last like 3 days, 7 days, 10 days, and when it was gone, it was like so obvious. Like all of a sudden the cloud formation rolled out, and I would wake up and be like, oh my gosh, like I feel I'm myself again today. I would get so excited, like, what? Yay, it left. Like I don't know who was here and what was going on, but it just like this dark cloud over me. Yeah. So weird.
I still struggle with it. I'm more like partly cloudy.
You know what's so funny that you say that? No, wait.
And I'm walking around with my umbrella just in case.
But you know what's so funny is that you were a weatherman. So the fact that you even describe yourself as partly cloudy is quite humorous to me.
It's dark and stormy, dark and hurricane-like windstorms.
I've struggled with depression my whole life, off and on, and it's just really been in the last year I made a decision that when that like feeling came over me again that I wasn't going to succumb to it. Like what was just it wasn't allowed to enter me. And I actually read the book. It's the same author as The Secret. It's called The Power of Love. And I read that book like 3 different times. I listened to it on audio, I think, for a solid month. It was like the only thing that I listened to. No music, nothing. Like in my car, getting ready for work and all that. And I just kept listening to it over and over and over again. And what it talks about in that book is just focusing on things that you love and being appreciative and having gratitude for absolutely everything. So you just like go throughout your day being grateful that you're walking on a paved street, and grateful for the people that worked in the hot sun to put this street together. And you just keep thinking about all these things of appreciation and gratitude. And after doing that for a solid month, I noticed a huge shift. And I don't think that I have gone back to that feeling of depression since, because it was like I just made this conscious decision, which I didn't realize it till you just said it, Michael. Like maybe it's just allowing another spirit into me, and I closed it off, and I just said, you're not allowed to come in here anymore. Like I'm not doing this anymore. And I did it, but combated, I feel like, by being grateful and having appreciation and thinking loving thoughts on a very, very consistent basis.
Can we just be clear here that the audience understands that when we say spirits, it's not like necessarily dead people who've passed on. It can be other people's energy who are living here on the planet right now, like your friends, your family, maybe having negative effects on you and attaching themselves into your energy field. That's kind of, and it doesn't necessarily mean they are even aware that they're doing it, but that's also what we're talking about here, is that people that we know on this planet in our lives energetically attaching into our energy field, and that's why we're feeling that kind of cloudiness, as Michael puts it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So, well,
that's why you have to get rid of the toxic people in your life.
Yeah. Which can be entertaining.
Or just,
sometimes, but sometimes they get rid of you, though.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome. Sometimes you're...
Yeah, I've never been one to, like, I'm the one that's in a relationship. If I'm not interested in the relationship, I'll try to figure out ways for them to break up with me. So I don't have to go through it.
Are you one of those?
I'm one of those guys, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Too nice. I was stuck in a relationship for 5 years, even though I did
nice.
not like her after 6 months.
That's not nice. Put a girl through all of that just to finally make her make the decision?
I was hoping she would change.
Yeah, that's the best way to get out of a relationship. Is let them get out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've tried that. It's better not to be that way, though.
Probably. You're probably right, Mom.
Well, it's better just to use your own voice and speak out for what you want.
Yeah. I know that now, but like, this is something in my 20s. I didn't know what the heck I was doing in my 20s when it comes to relationship.
Who does? God, the 20s are the worst for relationships.
I'm still 20 and I'm, struggling with that.
Perpetually 25.
I think I'm 27 now. I've graduated.
You graduated?
It doesn't get easier. It just gets different as you age when it comes to like relationships.
I know. It's just like different layers. You're like, oh man,
yeah.
I got to deal with this.
I mean, conveniently, almost all 3 of us are kind of single right now. So it's like,
Lisa, I don't think is. Lisa, I don't think
is. I'm really not single anymore.
Oh, well, congrats, Lisa.
I mean,
at the beginning of the show,
I'm not married. What?
I said, I think at the beginning of doing the podcast, you were single. So this must be a recent development.
Yes, things have changed.
Oh, good.
All good.
Happy for you. Happy for one of us.
Happy for one of us, yeah. 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
I like those odds. There's a chance.
The one who's single the least is not single again. That's
right.
Yeah, I don't know. things just happen.
Yeah, Michael and I like the single life, apparently.
Or the single life likes us. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but it's a love affair one way or the other.
I think we should still do this show about the love that you guys talk about and how our world has just like destroyed that word love. But so you guys are trying to recapture what love really means and to really describe that well to the audience.
So should we talk about relationships next then, since we kind of ended?
I think relationships should go hand in hand with the love conversation.
Because I feel like we just started talking about that. We could easily segue into that next episode.
Yeah, so that would be a potentially good next one.
Okay, so since we're kind of ending on a relationship note, then next episode 6, we will get more into the topic of relationships, love, what is love, unconditional love, and why are all our many relationships going sour, what causes all of the conflict, why are we still gravitating towards drama in our relationships, that kind of stuff, I think would be really good. And just kind of get a better idea of what love actually is, because many of us really don't have a clue. So I think that's a good one to go into next week. So just tying everything up this week, we just finished off with the vibrations and frequencies of how that impacts your day-to-day life with your relationships and just in your day-to-day living, which I think is great. So let's next week come back and talk about love.
Yay, I love love. I love love. Lisa loves love.
Yeah. And Michael,
sounds good.
We're expecting
I got mixed feelings on love.
Yeah, we're expecting you to bring in your dark feelings about love and your the darker side of love.
I will definitely bring the dark side of love and how it can destroy things. But that might be a different type of love that you guys are talking about, so it'll be enjoyable.
All right. Okay.
Sounds
cool.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, guys.
Okay, so signing off. We'll catch you next week on Enlighten Up. If you have any questions, please send them into our Twitter account at enlightenup.us, or you can send them into our email info@enlightenup.us. And if you need any more information about who we are, you can go to our website, enlightenup.us. And of course, check out our social media, Facebook and Instagram. Some of the articles that we discussed today, we're going to be posting on our Facebook page because I still have access to some of the ones, Michael, you were talking about. So we'll put those on our social media, and that should be good. So until then, we'll catch you next week.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.
Love you guys.
Ciao.
Bye.